Imagine a gray sky blanketing an immense mansion of glass and steel. Inside, in the near-silent expanse of a luxurious bedroom, sits Lewis, a man who once had it all: wealth, influence, and a life full of adventure. Now he is confined to a wheelchair, staring out of the window with a mixture of pain and disbelief etched on his face. But this story is not about Lewis's fall. It's about his transformation, how love can appear in the most unlikely places and change everything. Lewis was a business magnate, accustomed to controlling every aspect of his life. At his side was Daysy, his fiancée, the epitome of superficial perfection, elegant, calculating, and always seeking more. Their relationship began to fracture during a trip to Tuscany, Italy. Driving a luxurious Maserati, an accident changed their lives forever. In a desperate attempt to protect Daysy, Lewis swerved the car sharply to avoid a head-on collision with a truck. He turned the vehicle to absorb the impact on his side, saving Daysy. He survived, but the accident left him paralyzed from the waist down. After weeks in the hospital, Lewis returned to his mansion, a broken man, physically and emotionally. Daysy, though present, remained distant, more concerned with maintaining appearances than helping Lewis confront his new reality. It was in this setting that Gleycy entered his life. Gleycy was unlike anyone Lewis had ever known. A young caregiver from a humble background, she carried a calm and reassuring presence. Daysy hired her to look after Lewis, but it quickly became evident that she would be much more than an assistant. From the moment Lewis heard her gentle voice and saw her determined eyes, he sensed something special. Initially, Lewis resisted her help with sharp rejection. He was bitter, channeling his frustration toward anyone nearby. He despised being seen as vulnerable, and even more so, the idea of someone pitying him. Every time Gleycy tried to initiate conversation or offer assistance, he responded with sarcasm or stony silence, as though trying to drive her away. But Gleycy wasn't deterred. She saw beyond Lewis's bitterness. With patience and empathy, she began to earn his trust, little by little. Her approach was simple yet powerful, small, intentional acts. One morning, noticing that Lewis had refused the breakfast tray for days, she prepared something special, pancakes with fresh fruit, and left it on his table without saying a word. When he angrily asked why she persisted, Gleycy responded calmly, "Because caring means showing you deserve the best, even when you don't believe it yourself." Another day, during a physical therapy session, Lewis refused to try a new exercise, claiming it was pointless. Without pressuring him, Gleycy played soft music, sat beside him, and began talking about how her own life scars taught her the value of persistence. "Mr. Lewis," she said sincerely, "scars are not just marks of pain. They're maps that show where we've been, and sometimes they guide us home." Her words, spoken as she gently helped him position his arms for a stretch, started to break through his emotional defenses. Lewis's resistance didn't vanish overnight. He struggled to admit he needed anyone, especially someone so different from his world. But Gleycy remained steadfast. One afternoon, seeing him struggle to pick up a fallen book, she retrieved it silently and handed it to him with a simple smile. Surprised by her quiet gesture, Lewis thanked her, without a trace of sarcasm, for the first time. As weeks passed, these small moments began to shift their relationship. Gleycy demonstrated she wasn't there out of obligation, but because she genuinely cared. Lewis, once cynical and resistant, started to be moved by her words and actions. He realized that unlike others in his life, Gleycy didn't see him as a burden or a project. She treated him with respect and care. The turning point came on a calm morning when Gleycy found Lewis struggling to adjust his wheelchair. Without asking for permission, but with gentle resolve, she knelt beside him and said, "Let me help you, not because you need it, but because you deserve it." For the first time, Lewis didn't protest. He simply nodded, feeling a crack in the walls he had built around himself. But it wasn't just Gleycy who brought light into Lewis's life. His daughter Chloe, an 8-year-old girl with curly brown hair and curious eyes, also played a crucial role. Chloe had a gentle and cheerful demeanor, always with a smile that seemed to brighten any room she entered. Initially, she occasionally accompanied her mother to work, playing quietly in a corner while Gleycy cared for Lewis. Over time, however, Chloe began to draw closer to Lewis. Without fear or pity, she didn't see him as a broken man but as someone who needed support. Curious and full of energy, she asked questions about the books he read, the music he listened to, and even the paintings on the office walls. Chloe's spontaneity was infectious, and subtly, she began to break the rigidity Lewis worked so hard to maintain. One afternoon, while Gleycy was assisting Lewis with his physical therapy, Chloe, with her charming naturalness, picked up her mother's essential oils and asked, "Can I help too?" Before Lewis could protest, she began massaging his legs with gentle movements, humming a cheerful tune she had learned at school. Lewis, who would typically react with sarcasm, was left speechless by the sweetness and determination of the little girl. Chloe's presence brought a new kind of light into Lewis's life. She drew pictures for him, left motivational notes on his desk, and made him laugh with her stories. Slowly, Lewis realized that, like Gleycy, Chloe didn't see him as a burden but as someone deserving of love and care. And just like her mother, she brought color and hope into his life, showing him that even in the darkest moments, joy can bloom. Over time, the presence of Gleycy and Chloe began to transform Lewis. He started actively participating in his physical therapy sessions, not just for his body but for his spirit. Gleycy always encouraged him to visualize his progress, reminding him that the mind was as powerful as the body. One day, as she gently massaged his feet, he felt something, a faint tingling sensation. It was small but enough to rekindle a spark of hope. However, not everything was smooth. As the days went by, Daysy, once indifferent, began showing signs of irritation with Lewis's new reality. To her, the decisive and vibrant man she had known now seemed lost in a world of limitations and recovery. The luxurious life they had shared was no longer the same, and her interest in Lewis gradually faded. She avoided his recovery sessions and provided no emotional support, focusing instead on maintaining a perfect facade for friends and acquaintances. Daisy's lack of interest didn't go unnoticed by Lewis, but it was something he chose not to confront immediately. However, her behavior became evident in small gestures, long periods away from home, hollow conversations, and her constant search for reasons to distance herself from him. At the same time, she began to notice something that troubled her even more: the bond growing between Lewis and Gleycy. The genuine connection and care Gleycy offered contrasted starkly with Daisy's indifference, wounding her pride. Unsettled by the growing closeness between them, Daysy, in a fit of jealousy and resentment, confronted Gleycy one afternoon. "You're nothing more than a pretentious maid," she said coldly. "Don't you think you're overstepping? Don't confuse your job here with something more significant. Lewis is just vulnerable, nothing more." Lewis, who had been silently observing until then, felt his patience snap. At that moment, he saw Daisy's true nature. "Daysy," he began, his voice firm with resolve, "you have 10 minutes to pack your things and leave my house. I don't need people who drag me down. I need those who inspire me to be better." Daysy was stunned into silence. Anger gave way to disbelief, but she knew this time Lewis wouldn't back down. Quietly, she left, leaving behind not just the mansion but also a man she had never truly loved. The house, once oppressive, felt lighter after her departure. With Daysy gone, the mansion felt like a different place. Lewis and Gleycy continued working together, not just on his physical therapy but on building something greater. They shared stories, laughter, and eventually deeper feelings. Lewis realized that Gleycy was more than his caregiver, she was his light, his hope. The most emotional moment came when, with the aid of a walker, Lewis took his first steps. It was a small yet monumental moment, symbolizing not just his physical recovery but also his emotional transformation. Gleycy and Chloe stood by his side, celebrating every achievement, no matter how small. Months later, Lewis was no longer the same man. He still had limitations, but he had gained something money could never buy: a family. He, Gleycy, and Chloe had formed an unbreakable bond built on love, respect, and resilience. On a sunny afternoon, as they watched Chloe playing in the garden, Lewis held Gleycy's hand and said, "I thought I had everything, but I was wrong. You and Chloe have shown me what true wealth is. Thank you for helping me bloom again." With tears in her eyes, Gleycy responded, "Roots are invisible, but they are what hold the trunk steady. You, Lewis, are that strong trunk. And now, we're blooming together." After her words, a gentle silence settled between them. Lewis, his eyes glistening, softly held Gleycy's hand. He felt that this moment was more than gratitude, it was love in its purest form. "You have no idea how much you've changed my life," he said, his voice filled with emotion. Gleycy gave a shy smile, but before she could respond, Lewis leaned closer, and their lips met in a passionate kiss. It was a moment of surrender, sealing a new beginning for both of them. That kiss wasn't just about passion, it was about two souls finding refuge in each other. As they pulled away, they both smiled, certain that from this moment on, they were ready to rewrite their stories together. This is a story about overcoming challenges, about how life can knock us down but also give us the tools to rise again. It's a story of true love, not one that seeks to save, but one that supports. Above all, it's a reminder that the greatest riches lie in the connections we build and the moments we share with those we love. If you enjoyed this story of love, resilience, and transformation, don't forget to like this content and share it with someone you care about. Subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories that inspire the soul and warm the heart. See you next time.